What's up, Ohio? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Fanthem Sports Report. I am your host, Nick Brolis. Thank you for joining me for this edition of the Fanthem Sports Report. And, of course, it's brought to you by Cafe 80s. Feel free to download the Bands in Town app on your smartphone and follow Cafe 80s, or visit their website at thecafe80s.net, or just follow them on Facebook at The Cafe 80s. And before I get into the sports side of things, just want to let all of you know that they have another show coming up this Friday night out at the Jersey's on Dressler Road out by the pub in the North Canton Belden Village area. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And speaking of fun, for those of you that came out last weekend for the show at On Tap at the Harbor, it was an absolute blast. So for those of you that decided to come out, thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing you again this Friday night out at Jersey's. Now, on to the sports side of things. We're going to start out with the Cavaliers, obviously. Season's over. They lost in the finals. I'm past that as far as most of you may know. Now, on to point guards. So many point guards, and you're wondering, why are you talking about point guards? You got Kyrie Irving and Matthew Dellavedova. Here's my problem. I don't think that the Cavaliers want to bring back Matthew Dellavedova. I know he's great defensively, but offensively, he is not efficient enough, and he's not a good enough backup for Kyrie Irving. I wouldn't mind seeing him come back, but I think he's going to want too much. So, there's been interest shown by Mo Williams to come back. I wouldn't mind seeing him come back, but he is a defensive liability. Although, one thing he can do that Matthew Dellavedova cannot do is get his own shot. There's rumors about Rajon Rondo. No thank you. He's going to cost too much. There's a couple other point guards that are out there, but I don't think that they're going to be able to bring them in due to financial costs. Now, speaking of financial costs, the Cavaliers did exercise their team option for Timofey Mozgov for $5 million, so he's going to be back next year. Certainly thrilled that that's going to happen. Now, speaking of players, there's about 10 teams, as far as I've been told, that are interested in Iman Shumpert. I just don't see him coming back. Although the Cavs have the ability to match any offer sheet, I don't know how they're going to do this. Plus, you got to remember, Kevin Love and LeBron are probably going to opt out, and they're going to get different deals for just one more year. And then Tristan Thompson, they've got to pay him his money. I don't think he's a max player, but that's just my opinion. So, we'll see what the Cavaliers do with the makeup of this team in the offseason. It's going to be very curious to see how the Cavaliers go about in the offseason with the finances and the players. Now, on to the Cleveland Browns. Some of you may or may not know, they were given Terrelle Pryor off waivers. I didn't know he was with the Cincinnati Bengals, but the Bengals let him go. The Browns signed him as a wide receiver. Now, here's my issue with this. I'm glad they didn't sign him as a quarterback. But here's my problem with that. I don't recall him ever playing wide receiver at any point in his life. Maybe he did back in high school. I don't know. I'd have to look back into that. But here's my problem. If they're going to use him as a stretch wide receiver, that's fine. But he already has said, I'm not too big on catching footballs. Well, that's what you got to be able to do as wide receivers, catch footballs. Number two, how's he going to be able to handle the contact in the NFL? All he's ever done is play quarterback, as far as I know. Well, quarterbacks, especially in the NFL, they don't get hit too often. And when they do, most of the time it's roughing the passer. So, that, and if you're going to use him to run routes, it can be very difficult to learn how to run routes if you've never done it before. The only thing that I can give credit for Terrelle Pryor as of right now is John DeFilippo, the offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. Well, he came from Oakland, so Pryor already knows his offense. So that's my opinion with that. Now, as it pertains to the Cleveland Indians, they just continue to get their butts whooped by the Detroit Tigers. That's got to stop here soon, guys. You got to start beating these guys. You have to. They play again tonight. Yesterday, they got their butts handed to them 7-3. I don't know what they got to do. I think from a pitching standpoint, they got to stop making. Let me say this: they've got to stop allowing the Detroit Tigers hitters to stop feeling so darn confident when they're in the box. So I really don't know. They've got to do something because they got to start beating the Tigers. 3 years in a row they've gotten dominated. And on a final note, with the Browns, they're going to have over 60,000 people at the Orange and Brown scrimmage at Ohio Stadium August 7th, which is a Friday. So, curious to see how well that goes for the Cleveland Browns. And I think they're going to start moving some more of their training camp in general down to Columbus. So, that's it for this edition of the Fanthem Sports Report. My name is Nick Brolis. I will come back with you for another edition of the Fanthem Sports Report, probably this Wednesday, you know, give or take a day or two. But thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, great rest of the week. And don't forget, I am your Canton source for Cleveland sports.